Good afternoon there, racing fans, and welcome back to the channel. Just two selections for me as we build towards the jumps returning this weekend at Chepstow. We've got some decent horses in action, definitely more so on the Saturday and the Sunday over at Foss last, but we've got some decent action on the Friday, and I've got two horses that I do like, so just the two selections, getting in there early, hopefully getting a little bit of value, but I think I found a very good bet in the big race on the card. But we'll start off in the 135. It's the veterans race for the older horses, and it's got a lot of horses with a lot of letters in the form, which is never really a good thing. A lot of P's and U's in there, which isn't the best, but I think fresh is the time to catch a lot of these horses, so we should be seeing some decent performances. And the top weight and favourite is Cloth Cap, who once upon a time was an absolute good thing in the Grand National. Things haven't really gone his way since, but you can remember all the way back to November of 2020, so about 2 years ago, just less, where he absolutely bolted up in the Ladbrokes Trophy off a mark of 136. That he won that by 10 lengths that day, and he boosted the form wins winning at Chepstow, and he was about £5-10 well in for the Grand National, which he didn't even complete. And last season he didn't have too much to shout home about. He ran okay early on in the season at Cheltenham and at Newbury in the Ladbrokes Trophy, again off a very high way, but since then he kind of went off the boil, and it was another failing to finish in the Grand National. He was pulled up in 2021, he was pulled up in 2022. We definitely know that he doesn't stay and doesn't suit the Grand National fences now. He's first time out this season, and you just think that they might have bigger targets with Cloth Cap later on in the season. If they can get him back to his form that he was in a year 18 months ago, then he's definitely well handicapped off a mark of 144. But you just think connections, John Joe O'Neill probably wouldn't have this one fully primed first time out, and they're going to build this horse back up and hopefully rank up the handicaps and be a better horse than a Class 2 by later on in the season. The second favourite is one that'll definitely be ready for this, has won fresh before, has actually won at this meeting before as well, and it's the Mighty Don, who's a name that's been around forever. I quite like this horse, to be honest. When he went chasing to begin with a few years ago, he wasn't very good at jumping, to be honest, and he kind of reverted back to hurdles, and he's back. He's been back chasing for the past few years, and he's developed into a pretty decent handicapper, to be perfectly honest. He ran very well second behind Jala Enki at the Grade 3 handicap chase at Cheltenham last year over the 3 miles, 30 furlongs, a proper stamina test. That's one thing this horse does have in abundance. Will be staying all day. Has won fresh at this meeting before, won a novice chase beating Enrilo in 2020. So likes the course, is a course and distance winner. Jumps okay, has run well fresh as well. The one concern is it hasn't been seen since New Year's Day of 2022. Was pulled up in a handicap hurdle at Cheltenham, hasn't been seen since, which would be a little bit of a concern. But on the other hand, it's been off the track so long. When they're coming back off a very long break, I often find that the trainer just has them that little bit bang on, just because they don't want to send them out after a long break if they're not fully primed up. So I think he'll be up for this one. Another one that does go well fresh is Some Chaos, who has also won here before, actually won here last year in a race very similar to this one, and won that off a mark of 140, and went off the boil completely, failed to finish his next 3 starts, and then was again substandard in his final 3 runs of the season. But he comes back with the same jockey on board off a mark of 138. So we've got quite a few course and distance specialists who do go well fresh. So Some Chaos is one to keep an eye on. David Dennis also has 2 in the race. Broken Quest, who's always overlooked in the market. I remember I was at Market Rosen when he won. It was opened up at 2-1. It went off 6-1 and it won comprehensively. So I wouldn't be too concerned what the market says about that horse. And I probably do prefer Broken Quest, even though the other David Dennis horse, Inspire Lad, is shorter in the market. So Broken Quest at a price is one to keep an eye on. But my selection in the race is the Mighty Don at 3-1. We'll move forward to the best race on the card on the Friday, the Persian War novices hurdle, and it's a grade 2, and it's one of them races where there isn't really a lot at all in the race. Sometimes you can expect to see some exciting horses, some with potential, and the one with the potential to be much better than these is Quid Pro Quo, also the favourite, trained by Dan Skelton, owned by JP McManus, one of the few horses that is owned by JP McManus for Team Skelton, so they'll be wanting to do well, hopefully get a few more JP McManus horses in. But this horse won impressively on debut, was held up out the back on debut, I say, in a bumper, a National Hunt race, and was held up out the back end with a nice smooth run. Only won by a neck at the end of the day, but beat a horse called Shearer, trained by Paul Nicholls. That has kind of boosted the form since won its next start, so it showed some decent form on debut, then flopped at Huntington, was sent off 8-11 in a bumper, but was much better, stepped up in trip at Warwick on its debut over hurdles and won pretty impressively. Won by 14 lengths at the end of the day, beat a Ben Pauling horse, and I just think that this horse is well related. It's got a decent price tag, decent pedigree to go with it, and it backed up its win at Warwick with a very smooth win at Newton Abbot. Now, it's been more style than substance for this horse, but you just think it's been pitched up to a grade 2, but there's nothing else in this horse that has potential, to be totally honest. We've got some well found out horses, present and counting Donald McCain, Brian Hughes teams up. That horse has won 3 times in a row, but we know it's a 130, 140 rated horse, and Quid Pro Quo, I should say, a bit of a tongue twister, only has to perform to a mark of 140 to win this race. I don't think there's much potential in behind. Some of the horses, if you look down, are just handicappers at best. Some of the last ones was in class 4s, so there's not too much to be worried about. This horse is a huge price at 2-1, has stayed further than 2 miles 3 as well, has some decent form on good ground as well, because there is, I think it's good to firm at Chepstow at the minute. I'm sure that'll be more closer to good by the off, but I just think this horse at 2-1 has the potential to be much better. The one to be concerned about would probably be Deeper Blue, who's been brought along nicely by Harry Fry. He's won its last 2 starts, but again, its last win was a mark of 117 in a handicap. Quid Pro Quo does have the potential to be much better than these, and I think there is a lot more to come from this horse in its 3rd start over hurdles. Comes back from a break as well. You'd expect it to improve over the summer months as well. So Quid Pro Quo at 2-1. That's going to be the nap on the card. If it gets beat, it's a very poor grade 2, because there's nothing in this race that should be winning a grade 2 bar the favourite, trained by Dan Skelton. So Quid Pro Quo in the 2, the Mighty Don in the 135 at 3-1. They're my 2 tips for Chepstow on Friday. Depending how it goes, we might stick with the jumps at Chepstow and Foss Lass Saturday and Sunday, or we might revert back to the flat, where I'm probably know my own and can hold my own a little bit more. But that's all from me today. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.